Hello, Star Wars fans. I'm Star Wars Only, and today we're going to go over why Star Wars The Clone Wars is better than Star Wars Rebels. Now, this is just my opinion, but it also has some other people's opinions in here that I disagree and I do agree with. Now, it's almost like the prequels versus the originals topic of which is better, which is worse. A lot of people like both. A lot of people hate one over the other. It's just kind of how it is. Now, I know people are probably going to say, oh, well, Clone Wars and Rebels are made by the same guy. How can you hate it? Yes, Dave Filoni is the creator of both of the series, Clone Wars and Rebels, and I've been to interviews with him. I've been to little conventions where he's gone, and I've listened to him talk, and I'm not saying he's a horrible, director and creator. I just really don't feel like Rebels was that good of a show so far, and yes, we're only 2 seasons, maybe even 3 seasons in, but still, I feel like it's fair to compare them. So, please hear me out on this. Please listen and pay attention to the full video and leave your comments below and just give me your thoughts. So let's get right into this. So first thing is lightsaber battles, or even therefore the lightsabers themselves. As you can tell, they're both completely different between the two shows, between Rebels and the Clone Wars. Clone Wars lightsaber battles, in my opinion, are a lot more epic. They're a lot more just, I don't even know how to explain it. Just they look great, and then you get to the Rebels and they're not as great. And it's also the fact that the lightsabers kind of take away from that in Rebels. They look like thin little chopsticks. They don't look anything like they would in the movies, and it's really weird to watch, and it's really hard to understand why they would even do this. I don't get it. It looks so completely different and not as realistic, and it doesn't look as much as like a lightsaber as it would in the movies. You watch the movies, you see a lightsaber, you're like, okay. You watch the Clone Wars, you see the lightsabers they have in there, and you're like, all right, that looks like a lightsaber. But then you watch the Rebels show, and you're like, wow, what's going on with the lightsabers here? So it's just a little weird. I don't know why they changed it. Another weird change that Rebels did from Clone Wars was the animation style, the CGI, if you will. I'm not sure how to explain it, but you can completely tell the difference in, art design between the two. You look at Clone Wars, and it's very, I don't know how to explain it, but it looks almost more realistic than Rebels does. You look at Rebels, and it's just kind of like, you can tell it's extremely kind of lighthearted, a little kiddie. I really don't know how to explain this topic itself, but you can look at it and you can tell the difference. A lot of people weren't fond of this when when it first came out, and I was one of them. I don't mind it as much now, but Yoda looks completely different than he did in Clone Wars, and so does Anakin, and it's just kind of, it's a weird way to look at it, and it's almost uncomfortable. They don't look as epic and as cool as they did. But then again, this isn't much of a big deal. It's just kind of personal preference, if you will. You're watching the Clone Wars battles and you realize how epic they are. Then you watch the Rebels and you realize how pitiful they are. They're boring. They're childish. I get the kids show, but so was Clone Wars. One thing I liked about Clone Wars is that you actually saw death. That's another point. Is look at Pong Krell. He's literally slicing clones in half, and you get to see it. You don't see that in Rebels. It's too, what is it, PC, I guess you could say, politically correct and everything. Watching I'm Gundai, that's his name, with this clone trooper, I forgot the clone trooper's name, forgive me, take on all these battle droids, and yeah, they died, but they did it in such an epic fashion where it was just like, wow, it's amazing to watch. I love this scene because it's a final stand. It's something that it's impactful. You're just like, this is great. I love this. You don't get that in Rebels. You don't get final stands. You don't get epic battles because it's just not there. Now, to be fair for Rebels, that they're not in a war. Clone Wars, that was a war. This one's not a war. It's just the Rebels trying to fight back the Empire, but it's not really a war. So, I get that. But also, come on. Y'all have had some cool battles, and the only one I can think of is the space battle above Mustafar at the end of Season 1. And that's it. And yes, there's only 2 seasons in Rebels, but let's be honest, in the first couple seasons of Clone Wars, and I really mean the first season, like 4 or 5 episodes in, there were epic battles already. You're not getting that in Rebels, and that's something they should really emphasize on and bring to the table. And maybe they'll bring it next season. I mean, next season looks promising, but so did Season 2, and that season had nothing but fillers, and it was completely boring. But that's later, but still, I feel like Rebels should have some more battles, some more epic battles, and try to come up to par with Clone Wars, if not do even better, because there's so much potential to be made, and they're just not meeting it, they're not there yet. but I rest my case. The connections you build with the Clone Wars characters are a lot bigger than the connections you're going to build with the Rebels, because there's more story into it and there's more impactful things that happen in Clone Wars emotionally, and it's kind of amazing. I'm not going to lie, I cried when 99 died in the Clone Wars series. I legit cried, and I probably would cry again to this day if I watched it again. But that's because we built on these characters. We got connected to these characters, and with a character like 99, in a few episodes, we got that close to him. We're not getting that with Rebels, and the only, impactful thing was, Kanan losing his eyesight, and then Ahsoka and Darth Vader, which was a boring fight, if you ask me, and anticlimactic. But the only reason that was even close to emotional is because we built off those two characters in the Clone Wars. We didn't get them in the Rebels, we got them in the Clone Wars. So we need something in Rebels to build that emotional appeal and get us closer to the characters and have that impact, and that's something they're lacking. Another good thing about the Clone Wars is that it built on, side characters, side stories that expanded you into the Star Wars universe a little more. And I really hope Rebels builds up on this as well, because like I said, they're made by the same people. But in Clone Wars, you got to build up off the side characters like, Bane and the droids and whatnot. I don't know how to explain it, but you got a lot of side character action that really made the show more interesting and really made you care about those characters more, and the Star Wars universe got you connected a little closer. Hopefully Rebels follows up on this, because they haven't done this, haven't had a side story about a side character, and if they did, it was really a filler episode that's still about the Ghost Crew. So hopefully they change that up, because that would make the show a lot better in my opinion. Kind of going on the side story of things again, episodes like this changed up the tempo in Clone Wars. It wasn't the usual. It was honestly downright scary, and it still scares the shit out of me today, and I still probably won't watch it because this episode was just a little freaky. But it was good. Don't get me wrong, it was a good episode. But episodes like this that change up the tempo, change kind of how the show's going, make it interesting. And that's something Rebels should capitalize on, and you can't make the argument that it's a kid's show and it shouldn't be as dark, because Clone Wars was a kid's show and it was dark. So, I don't want darkness, but I want something interesting to change it up. But that's just me. Now, I'm not saying Rebels is a bad show. I'm just saying it's completely bad if you compare it to Clone Wars. That's it. I mean, it's an easy comparison, and it's really hard to argue for Rebels. Now, yes, there's only 2 seasons in, but like I've said, 2 seasons of Clone Wars, the first 2 were still a lot better than the first 2 we got of Rebels. Clone Wars doesn't have that many fillers like Rebels does. Rebels, all season 2 was fillers, and then the ending, I can get into this, but check out my Twilight Apprentice review. It's another video that I made of how stupid the ending was and how literally nothing happened. Now, don't go raging about me on this video. Go to the video I made about that, and we can talk about it there. But still, what's Rebels is doing good now is that they're bringing EU into it. They're bringing Thrawn in. They're bringing some Clone Wars stuff back, which, it's a little desperate, but it helps because it's something that they know we like, so they're going to bring it back. And that is a smart, very smart move on them. And another thing that I like they're doing now in Season 3, because Season 3 does look good. I'm not joking. It looks a lot better than the past 2 seasons. But, yet again, the Season 2 trailers and whatnot looked great, and then Season 2 happened and it wasn't great. So, Season 3 looks great, and I like how there's going to be more aspects of the Force involved. There's going to be the dark side that Ezra's learning about, and then Kanan's going to go to that, I don't know what that thing is, but he's like in between. He's basically like a gray Jedi. And so that's kind of cool to learn about, because that's something we learned about in Clone Wars, and who doesn't want to learn about the Force, So hopefully they capitalize on that, and hopefully they do well on it, and I'm really hoping that Season 3 goes well. But we'll just have to find out. I'm Star Wars only, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, dislike. If you did like it, like. Comment your thoughts about this below. Which do you think is better, Clone Wars or Rebels? I'll see you guys next time. May the Force be with you, always.